Okay, good morning. Welcome to today's webinar brought to you by University of Illinois Extension. I'm Nancy Wodralgo. I'm an extension specialist in community and economic development. And I am very happy to have with us today a set of professionals who are going to talk to us about build out nuances that broadband teams will want to take note of in interacting with existing infrastructure, and namely that's the railroad here in Illinois. So that's our main topic for today's presentation. Very happy to have on professionals from CSX Real Estate Group, as well as the Illinois Railroad Association and Norfolk Southern Corporation, as well as real estate and development at RailPros Incorporated. So I am happy to welcome, in no particular order, Keyana Holloway. She's a system manager of property services at Norfolk Southern Corporation. She's worked in railroad real estate for over 20 years, and she manages portfolios for fiber, signboard, oil and gas, cell tower, and private crossing programs. And she's been a spokesperson in a number of legislative matters as well, involving utility occupancies on Norfolk Southern's right-of-way. I also welcome Renee Robinson from RailPros Incorporated. She is a real estate and industrial development professional with 25 years of experience and is responsible for managing railroad clients' real estate assets. She holds leadership positions at local and state economic development and railroad organizations, including the National Association of Development Organizations, NATO, and the American Railway Development Association. We have also Kevin Clark on today, who has worked various roles with CSX for the last 5 years, and he's responsible for utility contracts. And is going to be presenting on some of those nuances today as well. And Chase Browning, who's a senior track analyst at CSX and is a design engineer with the group. Now also for a little bit of introductory remarks, we're really happy to have Tom Livingston as head of state government and community affairs at CSX, give a little bit of a greeting to us this morning. And so without further mention, thank you again to the whole panel, and thank you, Tom. I'll pass it over to you now.
Thank you, Nancy. Good morning to everyone. It's good to be on this chat with all of you and my colleagues at CSX and Norfolk Southern and others. I am sitting presently in Bedford Park in suburban Chicago at one of the largest intermodal terminals in the country. And CSX, the company I work for, is not unique in terms of having large intermodal and container traffic yards and freight rail lines in the state of Illinois. We really appreciate the opportunity to visit with you this morning about the deployment of broadband. Just as a brief 3-slide introduction, on the screen you see the various representations or logos of the railroads that operate in Illinois, and it's basically everybody, and that is through a lesson of history and geography. I serve on the board of the Illinois Railroad Association, and we've got Western, Eastern, Canadian, passenger rail, commuter rail, short lines, and switching railroads. We also work with universities like the University of Illinois with their engineering program, working on that next horizon of locomotives and such. So a lot of players in Illinois. Illinois is the only state in the nation where those larger railroads meet. There's just one, and it's Illinois. Illinois is really number one in the country and in North America in daily containers exchanged at these yards. And that could be in East St. Louis, Galesburg, Chicago, all over the place, really from the top to the bottom of the state. And it's a wide variety of things that you see on the screen. Illinois is number 2 in the country in the amount of at-grade crossings. Texas is number 1. So we have a lot of rail crossings in Illinois because of the central U.S. position of our state and the consuming centers of the upper Midwest and the Eastern Corn Belt. So a lot going on. It's a good thing, but with that, it means that we need to work collaboratively with each other to serve both the mission of broadband deployment and others. This is my last slide. This is what it all looks like when East meets West and Canadian and Gulf Coast traffic. You see where it's going. It's going to the state of Illinois. That goes back to the time of Abraham Lincoln when they were digging canals and connecting waterways. I would just conclude by saying that railroads are modern, forward-looking organizations that deploy technology and efficiencies, and you're going to hear about that today. We want to work with you. Railroads need broadband as well. And you can take that all the way back to the deployment of the telegraph. We brought that technology to scale and have never really looked back from fiber optic deployment successfully in this country, and up to including the company Sprint, which was the Southern Pacific Railroad internal networking telephone company, and GTE bought that from the railroad. So we've always had a hand in favorable development and meaningful development of broadband. We look forward to working with you as funding is available in terms of the efficient and safe deployment of that. That's the one thing you'll know and hear throughout the railroad is safety is key. We are extremely environmentally friendly in that it takes 480 miles on a gallon of gas to haul a ton of freight. So that's very beneficial to the United States and to the global economy. And we look forward to sharing more information with you today. So Nancy, that's it for me. And thanks for your time this morning to everyone.
Thanks, Tom. I'm going to have Renee share slides and welcome on our panel of presenters now.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Keyana Holloway. I'm with Norfolk Southern. Nancy, my internet is a little shaky. I keep getting messages, so if I kind of spaz out, I'm gonna get Renee to take over, and I'll just call in. But I'll try to get through it as best as I can. I'm working out of the home today. On behalf of the railroads, I just want to thank you all for allowing us to come here and discuss the permitting process and keeping everything on track. Especially when it comes to broadband. If you have any questions, like Nancy said throughout the presentation, feel free to ask questions through the chat, or you can just simply speak out and tell me what your question is. I'll try to respond at the best of my ability. If not, one of my colleagues will take it on and they'll respond. At the end of the presentation, we do have a pamphlet. It's a PDF form that we can forward to you. It's just some quick pointers of where to go and how to do things. It's just a shortcut of this entire presentation that we're going to be showing you today. And I believe CSX has the same. In general, CSX and Norfolk Southern's processes are the same, but there are some differences. And when those differences occur, my colleagues from CSX will chime in and respond to talk about those differences. So Norfolk Southern does have a new online portal. It's some semi-new, I would say. We had it put in on effective May 1st of 2020. We listened to some of the legislation and to some of the utility companies, and most people want everything electronic. So we incorporated a new online portal almost 2 years ago. Part of this presentation, I want to go over some components of how to complete an application. A lot of utility companies or their contractors don't know what things complete an application. So we'll go over that. We'll also discuss turnaround times. That's important to you guys. A lot of you guys have deadlines and time frames that you have to meet. So it's important for you to for you guys to get this app agreement and everything completed so you can go on with your project. We're going to also go over the application process. That's the first thing that happens when you first come to a railroad. You have to complete an application. So we're going to go over steps of how to complete that application and what entails that process. Once your agreement is executed, it does not end there. There goes the protection services and the construction monitoring. Renee from RailPros will go over that as they do the construction monitoring and the protection services for Norfolk Southern. And then CSX will go over theirs. They do theirs in-house. And then finally, we'll discuss some reasons for the prolonged processing. Some tips that we can give you guys to get things done quicker, and ask, or I should say, respond to any of your questions that you have when it comes to process. That's where that segment is helpful. I did want to go over the NS utility occupancy request. As you can see, in general, we get about 2,100 total applications, pipe and wires a year from Norfolk Southern. Illinois, Broadband is the top. And has been the top player for some time. It looks like it started off slow. If you look to the right of the screen, it started off slow for Q1 for 2022, but it is the beginning of the year, I should say, and usually things ramp up around spring, April, May. So we'll probably be getting a lot of requests, but in general, Broadband is usually the most applications we receive in a year. And then of course, gas and petroleum are the least amount. So annually, we usually have, that's okay, Renee. So annually, we really, right now, we only have about 135 applications. And I think, Renee, if you go back, if I could go and read it, I think we have about 37% right now are broadband. Okay, Renee, I'm ready. And this is where CSX goes.
Yes, hi, this is Kevin. So yes, we receive quite a bit of utility requests as well, and as she just alluded to, I think the majority of them that we receive as well are broadband also. And generally, our busiest time seems to be around early spring. So we've been pretty busy lately.
Okay, so was that it for you, Kevin? Before I move to the next segment?
Yes, that's it.
Oh,
thank you.
Okay, all right. So here's our online portal that you will have to start off with your process. If you look to the right of the screen where we've circled, that's the website that you will go up under when it comes to Norfolk Southern permitting. It's ns.railroadspermitting.com. You have to go up on that link. And some things that you need to have when you go up on that link, just so you have it handy, is make sure you review the NS engineering and construction standards, review the general processes, and of course, review the ARIMA link. We have some things to help you guys and guide you guys, like a portal tutorial, which you can review. If you don't want to get anybody live and you just want to look at it and do a tutorial, we have that. It's a video of how you go through that process, link by link. Some of the questions that you guys have are some of the same questions that other utilities have. So we have composed a frequently asked questions guideline for you to take a look at it. Those questions and answers might help you before you even able to have to email or call someone from a railroad. So we have that handy for you. And then if you look, if you look at the top of the link to the right, where it has the portal, at the very, very top, we have a broadband initiative link for special assistance. So if you have projects, you guys, that you're gonna have more than a couple or more than a few, we encourage you guys to click that link so we can assist you with your project. Call us, email us, give us a little bit more information about your broadband project so we can assist you. And this is for broadband projects that are not one or twosies. This is something where a project is coming in and you want to be able to get some assistance because you're going to get a number of volume of broadband initiatives. Okay, Renee, the next slide.
Okay, did Kevin want to say anything about CSX's portal?
Yes, so our link is if you just go to csx.com, click on property, go down and it's under utilities, and similar to NS, we also have a tab that offers information for our property portal that you can submit for all your applications. We've also got information with our design specs, frequently asked questions that typical utilities or broadband companies have as they're going through our process. We also offer a general agreement for frequent applicants that we can kind of try to work with you to prioritize your applications if you have a larger volume of applications that you plan on working with CSX on. Thanks.
That's a good point, Kevin, and Norfolk Southern has that as well. But again, it has to be volume. It can't be one or two. I also want to discuss the complete application components. This is very, very important. A lot of utility companies, especially the different contractors that you might have, are not well versed on what they need to complete their application. One of them being we need details, and as many details as you can give. The more, the better. Okay, so we need those details: the type, the size, the contents. Contacts are very, very important. A lot of times with utility companies, contacts can vary. Some contacts are just for the agreement to get signed. Some contacts are for us to be for just invoicing purposes only. Some are just for engineering purposes only. We need all those contacts, okay? And it's if the contacts change throughout the process, because sometimes it does, you'll need to communicate with your specialist or the person who's handling your application and let them know as soon as possible. Location, of course, is important. GPS coordinates. Of course, the city, state, county are very, very important. We need professional engineering plans. On the next slide, which I don't need you to go quite yet, Renee, it'll show you what we mean when it comes to professional engineering plans. Existing agreement. If you're doing a modification or amendment or maintenance or anything that has an agreement already on file, you'll need to have that agreement handy. If you can't locate that agreement, then you'll have to go into our portal and ask for that agreement. If you have your certificate of insurance, we'll need that too. You can go ahead and upload that so we can go ahead and see if it's approved right then and there. Some people have their certificate of insurance, some people don't, but we would prefer if you have it in the beginning so we can go ahead and see if it's approved. If not, we'll work with you as we have been doing in the past. CSX, did you want to add?
Yeah, that's pretty spot on
Okay.
with us as well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. As I mentioned before, here is just a list of unacceptable plans that we receive actually on a reoccurring basis. And then if you look to the right, there's a showing of acceptable plans. You know, most of the times acceptable plans includes a geographical location, engineering details, facility dimensions, bridge clearances, horizontal and vertical clearances. We need all that. We can't just have a line on the paper with some makeshift tracks. That is not acceptable. And if it does come to us to review, we're just going to have to just send it back, and it'll be in our correction period. We'll send it back and say, this is not acceptable, please rescind. And that can prolong your application process. So I urge you guys to make sure you have your professional engineering plans before you get started.
Yeah, and as noted for us earlier, we offer all kinds of specs and plans on our website under utilities, where it kind of just shows what we're looking for as far as requirements and as far as the utilities. So it's available on our homepage.
Yes, and it is on Norfolk Southern's homepage and their website, and it's also on the portal. So so all of the specifications for both design and construction are most all of the railroads will have them right on their website, but definitely Norfolk Southern and CSX, you should be able to reach them and find them very easily.
It looks like we have a question on the chat, Renee, and I'll just read it. And if anybody wants to chime in, they can. It says, do all Illinois railway companies have a similar process? Do they all have this set of application components? So we can speak for Norfolk Southern, and we can speak for CSX, because they're on this conference line now. It's similar. It's almost the same set of application components, but I can't speak for other railroads or other Illinois railway companies or short lines or anything like that. I suspect that there are going to be some similarities, but again, just with every railroad, they're their own company, there'll be as differences as well. Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Payments. This is something that we really, really like, and this is something that we were listening to the utility companies about, having the ability to pay online. The thing that was before 2 years ago, everything was sent by paper check, which caused delays, which it could be lost in the mail or take 2 to 3 weeks to come in the mail. So if you look at this slide here, this is a slide that's going to show you how you can pay online for Norfolk Southern on the home screen. You do not need a username and password for you to make a payment. All you need is a tracking number or invoice number. Go ahead and make the payment. We accept credit card, debit card, and e-check. We accept all forms of payment, you guys. Even though we really stress paying online because it's easier and it can get your project moving quicker, you still can pay by check. We still do get people who pay by check. We'll take all forms of payment. It's just, if you're going to pay by check when it comes to Norfolk Southern, you need to make sure you make the check payable to RailPros. Make sure you have the tracking number or activity number, and make sure you mail that check to RailPros so we don't cause any delays. CSX?
Yes, so currently we're accepting payment by checks and credit card. We are currently working on rolling out online payments, and we anticipate we'll have that, we're hoping, by the end of the year.
Okay. Okay, you guys, it looks like we have another question, I believe, from Nancy saying, could Kevin or Renee share the URLs in the chat when you get a chance, okay? So whenever you're able to do that, if you could just share that with the group.
Sounds great. I'll send that now. Thank you.
No, we do not. We do not take Bitcoin. Sorry, I said we accept all forms, but I guess we missed that, didn't we? So I apologize for that. Going on to the timeline and NS turnaround time. This is very, very important, you guys, because again, you guys have projects that have expiration dates. You got timelines that you have to meet, and so we want to show you what that turnaround time is, and then we also want to show you to the right. And I might ask Renee to help me out on this about.
yes.
So it's you've sent your application. There's some times where there's just a correction period for a number of times or a number of weeks, which can delay your project. If you look to the left, it's telling us that if you do everything right, it'll be 4 weeks. But if you look to the right, it's telling the average turnaround times for our Illinois applications. So for these aerial wire lines, it's not taking as long. It's 16 days when it came to 2021. But if you look at the bottom to the right, this is the time where they are in correction periods, and a good bit of them are in correction periods because something is not right, whether it be the insurance, the plan is not right, or whatnot. But I'll let Renee explain that a little further.
Yes, well, because we do have everything online, I mean, we're able to document and track when our real estate specialist comes back or our engineers goes back and asks questions and or additional information is needed. And so we track that time period that is in the applicant's queue. And as you can see below, in 2021, 82% of all applications that we received had some need for correction. And all of that could have been mitigated, or I would say, probably 99% of it could be mitigated if the design specifications or the processes were followed correctly. Mostly it's all the design, but it can be insurance. But we don't put it into corrections requested. If it's an insurance issue, we try to, that's really not it. We don't count that queue time. So this really is more about the time that it takes when somebody submits an application to the time that, it's in RailPros' queue or Norfolk Southern's queue versus the time that after you've submitted it, that we've gone back and it's sat in your queue. And you can see that it's, more often it's in the applicant's queue than it really is the railroad's queue. And we think that we could mitigate that. And that's really what we're trying to show here is that, we stress that knowing what the design criteria is, what the process and construction process is, and what they need for review is really, really important to limit the amount of time of the back and forth. And most professional design engineers should be able to read the specs. And if they have any questions, I know, we at RailPros are available and give many opportunities for you to come to us beforehand and during the application process, or even, if you have questions or don't understand our questions. So that's what this is really showing. And we are pleased to see that since we've started the program 2 years ago on the online portal and doing reviews, that time frame for applicants is getting lower and lower as they get more comfortable with what we're checking for, what we're enforcing, and some of the new processes and procedures that were just new. And so it is going down, but we're really happy with the 24 days to complete application on all of them. We think that's a reasonable time period, given the amount of review time and preparation of documents and that it takes. So we are more than willing to work with you to make sure that you understand the processes so you can get through the processes quickly.
Okay. CSX, you're up.
Yeah, so typically our ultimate goal is to have a 30-day turnaround from when the application is received to completion. Right now we're currently at 20 days, which is underneath our 30-day turnaround. And typically we don't have a huge issue with waiting too long for utility reviews. Sometimes in certain cases, if we have to run some extra title work, to ensure it's property we still have an interest in, things like that can take a little bit to research, but we'll communicate with you as we're reviewing it. We've actually also just implemented a tracer program for our property portal where, if we haven't heard from an applicant within, a certain amount of days, let's say 2 weeks, we'll send out a tracer that goes to all applicants listed on the application and kind of lets them know, hey, we're waiting on, X, we're waiting on return signed agreement, or we're waiting on payment or insurance requirements. So it kind of helps us kind of stay on top of the turnaround times overall.
It looks like we have a question in the chat from Zach Miles. It looks like they're wanting to know where can this recording be assessed after the meet, and he would like to provide it to the group who manages the Lost Nation neighborhoods to propose broadband implementation. So maybe Nancy, you can help him with that question. So my next, go ahead, Nancy.
Yes, Zach, you can direct message me and I'll be sure to get your email and you can access the recording and slides after the session today. Thank you so much.
Okay, on into the next slide where it has the applicant. This is just a chart, a flow chart, to let you guys see if everything goes well, there's 15 business days. But if you go to the right, meaning if we're reviewing your project engineering plans and we need additional information, it goes back, which adds times to your project. If your plans don't conform to NS specification, then it goes back to a correction requested status. So, if everything goes well, your project or your application can go through fairly smoothly. But where we're seeing the problems at is when we ask for additional information, or your plans are not correct, you don't have the inner specifications like you should, or whoever we sent, this is another one, whoever we sent the questions to or information to, that contact person you put on the application, they're not responding, or it was the wrong person. So just, when it comes to Norfolk Southern, just understand that we communicate a lot through the portal. So if you're wondering, hey, I have not spoken to Norfolk Southern, how is my application moving along? The best advice I can give you is go back to your portal and figure out if you've gotten any emails to request additional information or anything sent back because it has the wrong information and it did not meet our specifications. And then if you don't see anything and it's still been quite a long time, according to this application review process, then you need to contact your contract specialist to see what's going on.
Likewise for us, and additionally, you can always log in to the portal and kind of send us a notification, say, hey, we haven't heard, back, or we don't know what's expected out of us, and we'll be happy to go in there and leave you a note as to what we're waiting on.
So after execution is done, then we distribute a list. You need to make sure your insurance is approved. That's another thing that can cause some delay. If your insurance is not approved, got to send it back. And then we're going to send a DocuSign document to the person that you designated to send the DocuSign document to. Again, like I've spoken before, a lot of times we send that DocuSign document, they're not the correct person to sign it, or it sits. They don't know it's coming. And so it sits in their queue for days and sometimes weeks. So just make sure whoever you designate to sign your documents, that's the proper person. And then after everything is fully executed, you'll get your completed executed copy, and then it goes ready for protection services coordination. So, even though you got your executed agreement, we're not done yet. We got to make sure you are safe for the railroad, which means you have to have flagging protection. And then we need to make sure if you need construction as well. And so right now, I'll turn it over to CSX if they have anything different. And then after that, I'll turn it over to Renee because she'll go over the protection services.
Yeah, so once we have a fully executed agreement, we will send you an electronic copy of the agreement along with instructions for scheduling the work. We'll send you a special reference number, and you'll log back into the portal to schedule the work on CSX. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the process for requesting the protection services and or construction monitoring. Norfolk Southern implemented a third party, which is RailPros, 2 years ago to handle all of the requests and to coordinate. I call it event planning. It's railroad event planning, meaning that what we're coordinating on behalf of Norfolk Southern is everything that needs to happen in the field, getting everybody out there at the same time and making sure that the issues that may come up before or in the field can be addressed. We have to coordinate not only with the utility to be there, but flagging is always required unless it's waived in writing by Norfolk Southern. There must be a flagger or protection services present. Construction monitoring, this is a new program in the last couple of years for Norfolk Southern, and based upon certain criteria, you may be required to have a construction monitor on site. A construction monitor for the railroad has been in an agreement forever that Norfolk Southern could require it, and now what they've done is actually put in what we call triggers that says if it's this type of application or this depth or this certain criteria, then it requires construction monitoring. And really what that means is that RailPros is reviewing your construction's means and methods, meaning that on every railroad in AREMA there are requirements not just on your design, and many times in the past, and I used to come from a Class 1 railroad in my past life, and I can tell you that we were looking more at your design specifications and assuming that that was what was going to occur in the field. Well, when incidents happened, even what some would consider minor, like a fiber bore or a HDD or something, they would think that was minor work, and why would that require an inspector or a monitor? And those kinds of things can be very dangerous for the railroad. And we found that utilities were not finding and following the construction requirements that have always been and recommendations, or not recommendations, required. So this is a means that Norfolk Southern has decided is to enforce and make sure that that project is installed correctly. So what we do to try to mitigate that we don't want to mobilize you and get you out in the field and then find out that your design says that you're going to install it at 6 feet, and your equipment that you've used, or you're going to do an HDD, but your contractor is bringing a boring equipment that's not compliant with an HDD. So, I mean, that's really what we're trying to do when we ask the questions. When you come into the portal, it literally asks you a bunch of questions, including like, what type of equipment are you using? And that type of thing. And what we're really trying to do is mitigate anything before you get out to the field, to make sure that we're all on the same page on how you're going to do that installation. And then we coordinate, when you're ready to do that, we coordinate the construction monitor, the signal locates, the anything that is, if it's near a bridge, we'll work with the bridge department at Norfolk Southern to get them on site. So that's really what our coordinators do when you're submitting that protection services and construction monitoring request. And that can come in anytime after you've got the license. We see sometimes it comes in immediately and the project's done right away. And a lot of the fiber installations will be done. I mean, they're scheduling pretty close to the time as soon as they get the license. Whereas maybe with a city or a county project that's a big water or sewer project, it could be a year out before they come in and request. So what we're doing is helping you through that process as well by reviewing your plans, your construction plans. The way that process works at Norfolk Southern is in the time frame is that we try to review anything that's submitted, comes into a protection service coordinator. Your project, your contractor, or you are assigned a protection coordinator who you're working with the whole time to get out there to the field. And then they are sending it to an engineer to review your construction and monitoring plans. And if that's approved and they don't have any other questions, then you go into the queue to schedule the actual project and be out in the field. And we work with you to know when your teams are going to be available. If you come in and say, I want it tomorrow, we're going to say that's never going to happen. We can't get to the construction means review, nor or we're just not going to be able to get you into the field that quickly. We request as much time as you can, lead times that you can, to give us the better. The longer the earlier you put your request in for protection services, the better that we can actually get you on the day that you really want to schedule your construction in the field. If you give us that amount, the proper amount of time, we can actually try to make that better than if you come in and you really need to be there in a week or 2 weeks or something like that. It's a little more difficult. But if your plans, if your construction or your contractors fills out the questions and answers them per the specifications, then we're able to move that forward. And usually that review time takes about 5 days. If everything's perfect, we're telling you within 5 days, about when we would have available flaggers, or Norfolk Southern is would have available flaggers. And that's the biggest issue too, is that, you know, Norfolk Southern is unique, and some other railroads do, but have third-party flaggers. Some don't, and even Norfolk Southern, it really depends on what state and where you're at. And in Illinois, we're able to do protection services in most of the area, but on behalf of Norfolk Southern. But there's a lot of places where only Norfolk Southern can do flagging. If it's, you know, Illinois has a lot of terminal, you know, it has big terminals. We're not going to be able to flag their RailPros. So we're going to be working with Norfolk Southern to make sure that they have somebody available. And Norfolk Southern's flaggers are not just flaggers. They work on the railroad. They have a full-time other job. So to take them away from that work may take longer, you know, so that's why we're asking you to give us enough lead time so that the track supervisors, if they need to provide a flagger, that they're able to schedule them it's appropriate in the appropriate time frame. The other thing that's the biggest challenge for us, and I believe probably in all the rest of the railroads, is that, you know, railroads operate 24/7. We have, you know, available projects that those Norfolk Southern workers have to do their own job. So we need to be able to schedule 7 days a week. And if you can work 24 hours, and in some cases you have to work 24 hours to do a larger bore or something like that. But we need your flexibility into allowing to meet that time frame. When we have many requests or get told, when we say we have a flagger available on Friday or Saturday, they're like, you know, we'll be told by the contractor, I'm sorry, I don't work those days. Well, I'm sorry, that means you might be delayed another week, because, you know, we have to be able to schedule you when we have the staff to be able to do it. And so we appreciate that understanding, and maybe helping your contractors understand that is important, that it will take longer if they don't work 7 days a week, or if they don't work on off hour times. It's going to take longer to get the project scheduled, but we'll do our best, and we try to work and communicate very, you know, you'll over communicate. We've got some utilities that say your coordinators are over communicated. I get it. I know what I need to do, or, you know, yep, I know I'm still on the queue for 2 weeks from now, but we'd rather over communicate than under communicate, so you know what we're doing. But we're going to be working with you and your contractor. And that's another reason that it's so important to put the right people's contact information into the portal, even when you come in for protection services, because if we're working with your engineering firm, they're going back and forth to your contractor who is actually doing the work in the field. We prefer that the people that submit the application also have the knowledge and understanding of what's going to happen in the field, so they can answer questions, and that so we have the right people and know who's going to show up on site, and everybody can be on the same page. But if we're working through, you know, assistant or an engineer that really isn't going to be out in the field, or a project manager and not the actual people, it can sometimes prolong the ability to get out and get the work actually done. And Chase, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, that was very well explained. Thank you.
And just and once we, you know, we'll tell you when we're scheduling, and usually it's about you know, 2 weeks out or 10 business days out that we're scheduling. We do get sometimes, you know, spring is really, really busy, and not just for, you know, utilities. It's also very, very busy time for railroads and doing their major construction type projects, which requires their people. So, I mean, it's just a very busy time. So we can and do. And at the end of the year, when people are trying to wrap up their projects, for the fiscal year, we can get really busy, so we can take longer than the 10 days to get you scheduled. But on what we're seeing right now, and as the program, as we get more comfortable and Norfolk Southern's more comfortable with the services that RailPros can provide, and when the utilities get more comfortable about what they need to provide to us, everything goes a lot smoother and a lot faster. And we're seeing that we're able to meet the timeframes of the utilities a lot more effective. But again, we really do appreciate your understanding that we need to, we like to have the additional time, as much time as we can to get you out there and get your project started. Keyana, you want me to talk about this on the portal itself?
Yeah, good. Go right ahead, Renee, because I think we're coming to the end.
So this is what the Norfolk Southern's portal looks like. And as you can see, some of the advantage, everything is in real time. So you will see when it moves from application in review to engineering review completed. You're going to be able to track that. You're going to know exactly where your application is. So even if you're, logging on in the middle of the night, you're going to be able to see, did it move today? Did the application come back to me? Is it being worked on now by the real estate specialist to produce the agreement and get it out to you? So and you're going to know if you're not the signer, maybe you're the contractor, you're not the one executing the document. We try, if you ask, we'll put you as to receive a copy, but you're going to be able to see that we submitted it to agreement execution pending, meaning we sent out the DocuSign, and we always message in the portal and sometimes outside of the portal. We try to keep you informed as much as you can, but if you're not getting an answer, or if you need a quick answer, you can come right into the portal and tell you what stage you're at. The communication system here is in the portal. And again, I get asked a lot, why do you force us to use this portal communication system, and email is just as good? Well, like everybody, we're all busy, and we're trying to capture that for everything, for everybody that needs to do and assist you. If we capture that in the portal, everybody will have that same information, be able to see the response that the engineer gave to you. The engineer will be able to see where the real estate specialist, if you go back to them, everybody will see the responses, and we'll capture that. So if there's ever questions in the future, all of it gets caught. If you had a personal email, like of the real estate specialist, which you will see, or the protection service coordinators, and you only go to their personal emails, if they're on vacation, or maybe they were promoted and moved positions, we're never going to capture that. So that's why we like to use the portal in this communication system, is so that there's never a time when one of my team is not looking at and trying to assist you, whether it was the original person or not, or if they're on vacation, we can still handle their projects and get your questions answered. And Keyana, talk to you a little bit about the most common reasons for prolonged processing in Norfolk Southern is incomplete applications. And again, the way we can, is read the guidelines, use the checklist. There's checklists right in the portal that when you're answering your questions, most of it is in your plan set that will ask you specific questions. A lot of them are yes and no, a lot of them are short answers, but there's also a checklist. If you go through that online, and it's not a requirement to hit every button that says, yes, I did this, yes, I did this, but it's there so that you're able to see, did I miss anything before you hit the submit button? But most people don't want to use it because they look at it and go, yeah, I did that, instead of really reading it and making sure that it meets the design specs. The other issue is that when a message comes out from the portal, it is a no reply message. And again, that is to encourage you to go back into the portal and reply. And so sometimes if it gets, caught in your systems, or maybe you don't see it. Again, just like Chase said, we have tracers. I mean, we get pinged. My real estate specialists get pinged. If so many days go by with no response, there to follow up. And that's when they usually use the outside of the portal to say, hey, you got a message in the portal. I sent it on this date. Do you have any questions? They'll go back. That's probably one of the biggest problems, is the lack of responsiveness to the questions that we have. Another one is giving us the wrong contact on DocuSign. The DocuSign software that itself and the portal will ping whoever was supposed to sign that document or to attest the signature. They will ping them daily. And so I think we set it up for almost a month. And so there's really no reason they should be asking, why am I getting this DocuSign? If they were the wrong person, we hope that they would come back to us and go, I'm the wrong person, or they would figure out why they were on the list of needing to sign, or ask internally why they're getting that DocuSign. But again, those are some of the biggest issues, that maybe they didn't realize that we were going to send it out by DocuSign, and just filled out the contact information and didn't really read that we're saying that the license is coming through DocuSign. RailPros and Norfolk Southern, just like what we're doing now here, we will do that one-on-one with you individually. If you have contractors or your engineering firms, we are more than willing to sit one-on-one with you, train you in the portal, show you how to answer. I've got a team that answers the questions on the need help button, or if you email nspermitting@railpros.com or call us. There's 5 people that do nothing, that throughout their day, they're checking and answering questions. And making sure that you get to the right person with your right question. But we are more than willing and do on a very regular basis for utility companies that are new to the portal or have new people. There's some larger utilities that we've scheduled regular meetings, and we will do new trainings for their new people on how to get through the process and how to use the portal and answer the questions for them. And with the broadband initiative, we want to encourage you to take us up on that. We're here to help. We're really not here. We really want to get you, as much as you want to get your project done, we want you to get your project done. And this sounds kind of terrible, but we want you off the railroad as quickly as possible, because it's just for safety purposes and everything. The faster that you're out there and doing and following all the guidelines and understand what's needed, that it's better for the community, it's better for us, and it completes your projects that much sooner. Chase, is there anything that you would like to add to that?
Yeah, just to add a note on, keeping the applications on track. Typically, the biggest one that I see, so usually once the plans are reviewed and approved, it'll get kicked over to one of our contract specialists, and then we'll send out the agreement package to the applicants that are listed on the application. The biggest mistake that I see is when a certain contact hasn't been listed on the application, and then they'll trace us for, they'll want to know where the project is, and so they've never seen the agreement or the insurance requirements or anything that's needed out of them. So I can't stress the importance of including all emails on the application to where you want the agreement package to be sent to. So that's extremely helpful in our process.
All righty, you guys, do we have any questions? I know that was a lot of information, but we're here to help you guys. So we will be happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Sure. Thank you again for presenting all of that information. I have a couple questions. We had a participant who wanted to know if this process is similar for other types of infrastructure deployment, such as pipelines that might be needed to traverse right of way for railroad companies. And so didn't know if you could speak to that larger.
Yes, yes,
Thank you.
Nancy. Yeah, this is, this process is for when it comes to Norfolk Southern is similar to the same project for all our pipe and wire. So if it's a pipe or wire, you would deal with RailPros portal. And it's a similar process, go through the similar things. Yes.
Okay. And then out of curiosity, and this could be maybe something for Michelle at the association or with those who have contact with a plethora of railroad companies, but have you ever had anybody doing clean energy infrastructure deployment such as geothermal systems in more dense populated areas that have railroad tracks? And no is an okay answer because I understand that maybe a lot of units of government might not be doing this yet.
I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
We haven't seen that yet either.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. And so a couple other questions. At what point in a county or community's broadband development planning, do you think that they should contact their local railroad to get criteria or components for permits? Is this something that ISPs must always do? And if so, what would be a good question for county, cities, or townships that are deciding which ISP to use for their broadband deployment? What would be a good question for them to ask, and what would make a particular ISP real good at this process? And do you advise us to tell the ISP to start early on interfacing with railroad, if applicable, to our prospective service areas?
So that's a two-part question. So I'll answer the first part. The earlier the better, because I do caution you guys to come in the mid part of your project or towards the end of your project, and then you need things done fairly quickly. And if, again, we can come into delays if the plans are not right or things are not right or the insurance is not right. So even if it's early, I would prefer you do that. And then if you have to come back and follow up and say, hey, you remember me 4 months ago, we're ready now. I'd rather you do that than to come at the last minute and need the railroad and then rush everything through and not meet your timeline. And then I think Renee can answer. I think your other part, Nancy, was something about what questions can they ask. Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I'll jump in on that
Yeah.
question as well.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so I agree with Keyana on that. The earlier the better, to where we can get everything squared away. And so on our agreements, we actually allow for up to 5 years from the effective date of the agreement to make the installation. So, if you're not completely ready to go out and install the facilities, you have up to 5 years to go out and actually schedule the work with us.
It's not quite the same timeline as CSX. With Norfolk Southern, you have 12 months. But if you come to us, you guys, and say, listen, I'm at the 11th month and we're planning to do some things, can you give me a little bit more time? Just come to us and have that discussion with us, and we're more than we'll be more than willing to have that discussion with you. But don't come, 3 years later and say, well, can I get, some more time? You need to, ours is 12 months, CSX is 5 years. So if you feel like that you're not going to be quite ready when it comes to Norfolk Southern, getting close to that 12th month, you need to pick up the phone and have that discussion with Norfolk Southern.
Or if what we've also discussed with Keyana, if you come to us and say, hey, I want this license, I know it's going to be closer to 18 months to 2 years, we'll go with them and we'll look at the location. We'll talk to the engineering department to see what the future plans are, because that's really why Norfolk Southern and other railroads don't give that long, is because they're looking at this going, I can't tell you what we're doing a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now. So when they're looking at it, they're trying to make sure that even though it says 12 years, if you come back and, or 12 months, if you come back and you need longer, we can do that. If you, we're okay with going to the planning department and asking them if 18 months or 24 months is okay, if you need that long. There was another part of the question about what to ask ISPs. I would say that in my experience that if somebody promises you that you don't have to follow the rules, or the railroads are hard to work with. And it's because they don't understand the requirements of railroads. Railroads are federally required, or, they're mandated to protect to protect the tracks, protect the community, and to operate safely. And so it's not a question as to whether or not you can sidestep the processes and the procedures. It's there for community safety. It's there for the railroad safety. It's ready to follow the process. And unfortunately, over the years, I've heard a lot of things from people saying, oh, I was told by XYZ that I don't have to because I'm on a public road. Well, you may not, there are different things and different rules. And in Illinois in particular, we're going to follow all the laws, but we're also going to make sure that you're installing and operating safely, and that we can protect you and the community. And there is not a sidestep of that. That's also a federal requirement of railroads, and it's just in the best interest of the utilities. So I would really say, ask them, and if you hear that, then go to your other one, find a different one, because it's important that we're all working together and trying to get this broadband out as quickly as possible. And all that will do is delay the process if you say, I'm just going to go out and do it. So I just would say that. That's my 2 cents. And
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that then it's sort of what we might want to take away from that is ISPs that believe that the railroads are difficult to work with may not have mastered the process, and one could expect delays with that. And so it wouldn't necessarily mean that we would say no to an ISP who doesn't have that experience, but to just understand that there would be delays possibly. So I really appreciate you all discussing that nuance with us, and also giving us the ideas of additional challenges and barriers, that engineering plans and insurance and signatory issues, all of those things that that can delay the permitting process. That's very helpful to us. I do have one question sort of related to this, and it's more of a big takeaway, or possibly just kind of wrapping it up. But I can imagine a county or community laying down fiber and arriving at the railroad tracks and then just sitting there for weeks or months or something. And what are some of the painful scenarios or cautionary tales that any of you can sort of share around, conflicts with right-of-ways or issues with legality, or issues with permitting? Do you have any other sort of wisdom to share with us on that things to avoid, or some of the worst case things that could happen, possibly legally, or with the development projects? So it sounds like there really is a pathway for this type of work, and that there really is no bad outcome if one sticks to the process.
Well,
correct?
Nancy, I just need to understand your question. Could you, because I missed it somewhere in between. Could you repeat your question? Because I want to make sure we get the information we need.
Sure. I think a lot of counties and communities do have to pay attention to avoiding legal problems. And so if there is any cautionary tale that you all might have for the group, we would appreciate it. So you can also just say that you have nothing to share, or you can also take a tangent and give any lasting takeaways to our group.
I would say, if this is just what I have to say, and someone can bounce off of me, I would say, based on this presentation, we are saying if you follow those steps, you should have no problem. But listen, no one's process is perfect. and there can be still issues. But if you foresee, if you've done everything you're supposed to do on this presentation and you're still encountering issues, I would say pick up the phone and call the railroad. Don't sit there and fester and get upset. Pick up the phone, call the railroad, call RailPros when it comes to Norfolk Southern, call CSX when it comes, and say, listen, I've done everything that you got. What am I doing wrong? Because we really need to get moving. I don't think you should sit and linger and let it linger, because we don't want it to do that and get to be legal. Okay, I've seen people come at me and say, you know, I've always had problems with the railroad. Well, did you call the railroad? Let's hear what your concerns are, because we're truly, Nancy, trying to get to a point where we are listening to the utility companies and seeing what things we can do. We do not want to delay utility companies' project. That's not what we're in the business to do. We're trying to run a safe railroad, and sometimes some of the things we receive from utility companies are just not safe. So there's where the hesitancy comes. There's where the correction periods come. So if you're having issues, pick up the phone. We've put all our contact information here, and give us a call.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for all you do to keep our line safe, and thank you for presenting on this process today and addressing our group. And so if there are not any other questions, I do see somebody asking for the ability to unmute themselves to ask a question. And so I have turned on that feature, and everyone should be able to unmute. If you have a question and want to unmute and speak up, please do so at this time.
Nancy, this is Dino Perdue with AT&T. I want to commend the railroads for creating this process and really eliminating the problems we've had in the past. I had one problem in Missouri trying to get crossing so I could serve a customer in Southern Illinois. And I called Michelle Kelm at the Railroad Association, and she took care of it, and we were good to go. So great job on her part, and we appreciate that kind of opportunity to reach out to her and the Railroad Association to fix our problems.
Thank you, Dino. That's a really great point on the role that the larger association can play on helping with communications and coordination. Does anybody else have a comment or question? I just want to give a big thank you to all of our presenters and those who helped coordinate the webinar, to CSX who helped coordinate the webinar as well, and just really thankful for this discussion today, and great to have everybody on, as well as the attendees who are going to use this information in their planning processes as well. So thank you, and I hope everyone has a great day, and thanks for your interest in Illinois Extension programs.
Thanks for having us. Have a good day.
Thanks
Thank
everyone
you.
for joining.